Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. In the previous episode, we started to discuss the Polish hero of the American Revolutionary War, Kazimierz Pulaski. We started to look at how he found himself in America to fight against the British. We will now look at his impact on the course of the war itself.
They attracted talent, as we see
with these two great Polish freedom fighters.
Well, they said, "Oh boy, we'll have a little bit of that," because that's amazing. Because their, freedom, Polish freedom. Poland had a huge empire, and now it has shrunk to virtually nothing. With the third partition, it was over 1795.
1795, yes.
Yeah, and But the first and second partitions had already chased them out. I believe it was the second one had already happened too. And then it just took some time for the final erasure of Poland. Okay. Nonetheless, you have, I think also what it's worth saying is Pulaski, because he died, we have to separate his contribution from Kosciuszko's.
Yeah, because Pulaski died in the service of the war.
He died in the service of the United States. Yeah. And he said, he wrote a letter to George Washington. He said, before he'd met him, and he said, I'm here, I'll paraphrase it, I can't remember it exactly. I'm here to fight and, if necessary, die for freedom. That's why I'm here. So Washington was suitably impressed with that. But remember, somebody called Pulaski, and one of these things I was looking, which was slightly woke, without knowing it, they said Pulaski was an immigrant, and what an immigrant contribution, but he wasn't an immigrant. He was an aristocrat from one of the best families in Europe.
But of course, at that time, immigration, this is a modern concept. I mean, people moved around.
Yes, of course.
All over, particularly soldiers, if there was an interesting water fight.
Yeah, but aristocrats are not immigrants. It's not the same thing. He wasn't rowing a boat. He was invited by Benjamin Franklin. So it's rather stupid.
The United States ambassador
it's stupid.
To France.
He had a letter from Benjamin Franklin, who was basically the godfather.
But also, at some point, he became a bit disillusioned, didn't he, at one point, Pulaski, and thought he might go home. And I think the fact he was Polish and he found it sometimes difficult
to speak the language.
Difficult to communicate with his men.
He didn't speak the language, and this is a major problem. As we know from living in foreign country or countries, language is very important.
Especially in the heat of battle.
Yeah, in the heat of battle, but also if you're used to being this fluid leader, cock of the walk, and suddenly you can't speak to them and show your brilliance. It's rather annoying.
Yes.
But if you can put yourself in his shoes.
At one point he was going to return to Europe, and then Washington persuaded him and reassigned him to the southern battlefront.
Yeah, he put him in charge.
Yeah.
And that's presumably what kept him there, because he was given, he was made a brigadier general and given command of the southern sphere. But then, unfortunately, didn't live much longer.
No, as we said earlier, the Battle of Savannah.
Mm-hmm. That was it, the Battle of Savannah. So he comes in with the Battle of Brandywine. He saves, by this cavalry charge, which is totally unexpected, he saves George Washington and effectively the army, and allows the revolution to continue. Yeah.
Without him, there might have been no George Washington.
Well,
and without George Washington...
If you think that the revolution could have continued without Washington...
I do.
And no one seems to think that it could have, not contemporary or now, with hindsight, that there was someone to step into Washington's shoes. And it couldn't be, even as brilliant as he was, it couldn't be Kosciuszko because of, the language problem. Yeah, which was... Well, it's a good thing the Americans weren't trying to do that in Poland. They'd have had a real problem trying to understand Polish.
They would. Well, look, I think that's been a very interesting cavalryman probably canter through the course of Pulaski's involvement. Do stay with us, and we'll look. I think in the next episode we'll look in more detail at Kosciuszko's contribution. But that's been fantastic.
Try that.
Alas, as always, the clock has defeated us, but we've seen, with the help of Will, a very interesting canter through the course of Pulaski's life as the father of American cavalry. In the next episode, we will be looking at the contribution particularly of Kosciuszko. So do join us then, and thank you for watching.